Hey TGIW friends, it's me, Allison from church, and I just wanted to say hi, and I'm sorry that we're not able to meet tonight, but I do have a super special story that I wanted to share with you now that we're getting ready for Thanksgiving. We're talking a lot about being thankful and grateful for what we have in our lives, and sometimes that can be really hard, right? Especially with the pandemic and COVID-19 going on. Sometimes it can be hard to find those things that get us excited and happy and grateful for all that God has given us. So I wanted to share this story with you, and as I read, I'll kind of bring the book in close so you can see the pictures. But it's called The Blessings Jar, and it says, A Story About Being Thankful by Colleen Coble, illustrated by Rebecca Harry. Punky Grace frowned as she stared out the window. It was a grumpy morning, an icky, awful morning. I really wanted to practice my dance with Kayana today. Why can't she play even if she's sick? Punky's grumpies would not go away. There's Punky, her dog. As soon as Punky walked into the kitchen, her grandmother noticed her sad face. Is someone having a bad morning? I'm having a grumpy morning, Grammy. An icky, awful morning. Nothing fun is going to happen today. Grammy gave Punky the "it's going to be okay" kind of hug that only a Granny can give. So there's Punky, and there's her Grammy. I know the perfect cure for the grumpies. Look what I've got here, Punky. Granny showed her a big glass jar. It's a blessings jar. Why don't we go on an adventure today and try to fill the jar with things that remind us of God's blessings? Punky thought about it. She did like adventures. Let's see, said Granny. I know that you like helping Mommy in the garden. Let's find a flower for the jar, and maybe you won't feel so grumpy. Grammy took a beautiful red bloom and dropped it into the blessings jar. Now you'll remember that flowers are one good thing God gave us. I bet I could find more blessings, Punky said. She twirled toward her room in her ballerina tutu. I love to dance around and around and around. Is dancing from God too? Of course! God gave you healthy twinkle toes to dance on. What can we use to help us remember? Said Granny. Punky looked down at her feet. Let's put my ballet slipper in the jar after I put on my adventure clothes. She's dancing. As she and Grammy headed towards town, Punky began to forget how grumpy she was, especially when she saw her grandpa by the ice cream stand. She smiled as she licked the scrum-delicious ice cream cone he handed her. It was bubblegum flavor, her favorite, and chocolate, her second favorite, and strawberry, her third favorite. Maybe today won't be too terrible, Punky thought. Thanks for the triple dipper, Poppy. That was yum, yum, yummy blessing. She looked at the picture of the ice cream cone on her napkin and dropped it into her blessings jar. Jake's big doggy feet splashed in the cold water as he and Punky ran across the lake shore. Remember to look for a blessing, Grammy called. Jake stopped and pawed something in the sand. Look, Grammy, Jake found the prettiest shell I've ever seen, Punky said. Maybe it's a blessing from all the way from the other side of the lake. Maybe it's a blessing from all the way from the other side of the world. Maybe not that far, said Grammy with a wink. But it will still look lovely in our jar. When they reached home, Punky headed for a giant pile of leaves behind the oak tree. Jake was quick to follow her over the leaves, under the leaves, and through the leaves until he was covered in orange and yellow. Grammy, doesn't Jake look silly with his fur full of leaves? Asked Punky. I'm putting this leaf in the blessings jar to remind me of my very favorite puppy. It was cookie time. Baking with Grammy always made Punky smile. Grammy, since Kayana is sick today, why don't we give her some cookies? That will make her feel better. She stirred the batter and helped spoon Grammy and gave the batter a lick. After all, you and I make the best super duper sugar doodles in the world. Of course we do, said Grammy. Warm blessings from the oven are some of my favorites, and giving them away makes them even more special. She smiled as Punky dropped a cookie cutter into the jar to remind her of shared sugar doodle blessings. A few hours later, the night sky was full of stars, and Punky's eyes were full of wonder. Look at the stars, Grammy. Maybe God sprinkled sparkly sand all the way across the sky as far as we can see. Maybe he did, Grammy said with a smile. Why don't you sprinkle some sand into the blessings jar to help us remember this super sparkly night? You are quite a star blessings finder now. Oh, I didn't show you that picture. Here, look. Looking at the sky. Soon it was time for the best adventurers to get ready for bed. Well, Punky, we started with a grumpy morning, but we ended up with a good day, Granny said. How about a story before we say goodnight? Punky crawled into her grandma's lap to hear her favorite story about a princess who goes on a wonderful adventure. When Grammy finished reading, Punky said, Could you put the bookmark in the blessings jar, Grammy? I want to remember this story forever and ever. Grammy smiled and tucked the bookmark among the day's other treasures. Punky snuggled against her grandmother. Know what, Grammy? I was so busy looking for blessings today that I lost my grumpies, all because of you. I should try and put you into the jar, but I think you're too big. They couldn't help but giggle. Punky Grace looked at the jar full of prettiness and happiness. I thought only icky, awful things would happen today, Grammy, but God filled my blessings jar all the way to the tippy top. God must be all the best blessing of them all. The end. Oh my goodness, what a great story and what a great reminder. And I thought, since we read a book called The Blessings Jar, that maybe a quick activity would be to make our own blessings jar. So, I actually have a glass jar like the one in the book. But you don't need a jar. You could use maybe a cup, or if you have an old garden pot in your garage, you can be really creative. But I put a piece of candy in there because I'm so thankful that I have chocolate in my house. I have a little teaspoon because I love to bake. I have a little bunny keychain because I'm so grateful that I have a little pet bunny and that God put him in my life. I have a bracelet my mom gave me because I'm thankful for my family. They're a big blessing for me. I have a little candle that lights up to remind me how grateful I am that there's light in the world. And I have this little metal heart that I found that was given to me by a family member to remind me that family is one of the biggest blessings of all that God gave me. So, my TGI friends, I promise that today and other days we can always find things to be grateful for. And even if you don't make a blessings jar like I did, maybe you can take some time to look around your house and find little examples that remind you of why you are so grateful and blessed to have this life from God. I miss you guys and I can't wait to see you again. And I hope that we'll get to connect soon. Bye!